I found out my boyfriend dated my long-lost half-sister. But the truth he hid about our childhood is what finally broke me. I don't even know what subreddit this belongs to. I feel like I've exploded a bomb in the middle of my own life, and now I'm sitting in the fallout with shaking hands and 1,000 unread texts. I've read posts on here before, always thinking, man, I'd never let it get that bad, but here I am. Here's my confession, I guess. So, I, 28F, have been with my boyfriend, Eric, 30M, for 6 years. We met in grad school, dated casually for a few months, then fell into something serious almost by accident. We were that couple everyone assumed would get married, matching Halloween costumes, joint dog ownership, shared Spotify playlists, the whole domestic millennial fantasy. But this isn't a love story. Not anymore. The thing you need to know is, I'm adopted. My parents adopted me when I was 4, after my biological mom, whom I barely remember, was deemed unfit. I always knew I was adopted, it was never a secret, but my parents were extremely tight-lipped about the details. I figured there wasn't much to know. They told me my bio mom had issues, which I interpreted as drugs or mental illness. I never pushed. Anyway, fast forward to a month ago. My best friend Rachel and I were drinking wine on my balcony and talking about dumb TikToks, and somehow we ended up talking about genealogy kits. She mentioned she got one for her boyfriend last Christmas and found out he was like 10% Greek or something. I laughed and said I'd probably do one just to see if I had any cool ancestry. She said, "You should. I have a spare one in my closet." I didn't even think about it. I wasn't trying to track down my biological family or anything dramatic. I was just tipsy and curious. I spat in the tube and sent it off. Didn't think about it again for weeks. Then the email came. "Your results are ready." I clicked through, expecting fun pie charts and maybe some long-lost second cousin in Norway. Instead, I got a match under immediate family. A half-sibling. Female. 29 years old. Her name was Vanessa. My stomach dropped. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't even open her profile at first. I stared at the screen for an hour, rereading the word half-sibling like it would change. I called my mom, adoptive, and told her in the calmest voice I could manage. "Hey, did I ever have siblings?" She went silent. Not in a thinking way. In a something's not right way. Finally, she said, "We didn't think this would ever come up." I asked her what she meant. She said my biological mother had another child a year after me. Vanessa. But she was placed with a different family because by then, my bio mom had relapsed and the courts separated them. The adoptive parents didn't want to stay in contact, so the state let them cut ties. I was floored. I asked why they never told me. My mom said, "We didn't want to complicate your life." That sentence rang in my ears for hours. But this isn't even the bad part. So, I finally messaged Vanessa. We exchanged a few polite, hesitant texts. She told me a little about her life. She's a nurse, lives in a nearby city, also loves true crime and baking. It was surreal. Like looking into a slightly different version of my own life. We agreed to meet for coffee. We met the following Saturday, and the connection was instant. She looked so much like me. Like freakishly. We hugged like we'd known each other forever. It was emotional, but not weird. Just natural. We talked for 3 hours straight. At some point, I pulled out my phone to show her a picture of Eric and me at a wedding. She froze. Her face changed completely. I asked what was wrong. She said, I dated him. That's Eric. I dated him 3 years ago. I laughed at first. I thought she was joking. But then she described his dog's name, his old apartment, the way he used to leave his socks in the bed. Things only someone who had really been with him would know. I felt like the room tilted. I thought I was going to throw up. Vanessa was saying his name over and over like it was a curse. Eric. Eric. Like trying to make it make sense. I stammered something like, "Are you sure? Maybe it's someone who looks like him?" But she pulled up old texts. Pictures. A photo of them on a hike. Same stupid grin. Same worn baseball cap he still wears when he walks our dog. She said they dated for almost a year and broke up because he wasn't over someone else, but never explained who. She thought it was an ex from college. That ex was me. I went home in a daze. I confronted Eric that night. I showed him the picture of Vanessa and asked if he recognized her. He went pale. Then he sat down and said, "I didn't know." Apparently, we'd broken up for a few months around that time, one of those taking a break things, and I moved out temporarily. He swore he didn't know Vanessa was my half-sister. That he met her on Bumble and they just clicked. Dated casually. Then it fizzled out. He claims he never put two and two together, that he didn't know I was adopted, or about Vanessa, or even her last name. To be fair, I had never told him much about my bio family. It just never came up. I didn't know what to say. I felt violated in a way I couldn't explain. Not just by him, by everything. Like my life had been built on top of a trapdoor and someone finally pulled the lever. I told him I needed space. I stayed at Rachel's that night. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't told anyone else yet, not my parents, not my friends, not even Vanessa. I've barely slept. I keep going in circles. Was it really his fault? Or is this just a hideous coincidence? Am I overreacting? Reddit, I need someone to tell me I'm not losing my mind. Because it feels like I've accidentally stepped into a Greek tragedy and I can't figure out who's the villain. The post blew up. I wasn't expecting much when I hit post. Maybe a few strangers offering some validation or telling me to break up with Eric. But I woke up the next morning to hundreds of notifications. People DMing me. Comment chains miles long. Some people were outraged on my behalf. Some thought I was overreacting. Some were disturbingly focused on the genetics of it all, which wasn't the point, but whatever. The overwhelming consensus seemed to be, this is not normal, and I'm not crazy for feeling messed up about it. That gave me some courage. I texted Vanessa and asked if she'd be willing to meet again. She responded almost instantly, yes. Please. We met at the same cafe, but it felt different this time, tenser. Like we were both afraid of what would come out next. She apologized for freaking me out. I told her I wasn't mad at her. We were both blindsided. Then I told her everything Eric had said, that he didn't know, that it was a coincidence, that I never mentioned being adopted. She looked at me and said, he knew I was adopted. That hit like a punch. What do you mean? He asked once, early on. I said I didn't know much about my birth family, that I was adopted as a baby. He didn't push, but he definitely knew. I felt the blood drain from my face. I started thinking about every conversation I'd ever had with Eric about my adoption. Had I ever told him outright? I think I assumed I had, but now I wasn't sure. And if I hadn't, that didn't explain why he didn't tell me about her. Even if he didn't know the biological link, why hide a past relationship? Did he ever mention me? I asked. She shook her head. Not once. We sat there in silence for a long time. Then Vanessa said something that changed everything. He ghosted me, you know. One day he just stopped texting back. I thought I'd done something wrong. That didn't fit. Eric had told me they fizzled out. A casual thing. But Vanessa was clearly hurt. And now I was wondering if he ghosted her because he found out. If he somehow did connect the dots and just chose to stay silent. That made my skin crawl. When I got home, I decided to go nuclear. I logged into the old laptop we used to share before we each got our own. I knew he was lazy about clearing browser history and passwords. Sure enough, I found his old Bumble account still semi-active. Not that he was using it now, but his chat history was still there. He must have deleted the app but not the account. And there it was. Vanessa. Matched in August of 2020. Long string of messages. Flirty. Then personal. Then a date and a heart emoji. I clicked through the chat log, skimming. And then I saw it. Small world, my ex was adopted too. Crazy how common it is these days. That was him saying that. Eric. 3 messages after Vanessa told him she was adopted. That was a month before I moved back in with him. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what to do. I took a screenshot. Then I closed the laptop and stared at the wall for a long time. I didn't want to believe it. But how could I not? He knew. He figured it out. And instead of telling either of us, he ghosted Vanessa, reeled me back in, and acted like nothing happened. I confronted him again the next day. This time I didn't give him any warning. I waited until he got home from work, then dropped the printout of the screenshot on the counter like a bomb. He picked it up, read it, and went dead silent. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know for sure. I asked him what the hell that meant. He said, I suspected. But I wasn't sure. And I didn't want to lose you. I asked why he didn't just tell me what he suspected. He said he was scared. That he thought if he said something, I'd think he was a creep, or worse, he said he figured it wasn't technically wrong, since neither of us knew at the time, and maybe it was better to just let it go and never talk about it. I asked him if he had any idea how violating that felt, to know that he suspected we were sisters and just sat on it. That he let me get closer to her, meet her, walk right into this trauma like it was a landmine he planted. He tried to apologize. He started crying. Actual tears. I'd only seen him cry twice before, in 6 years. He said, "I love you. I didn't want to ruin us over a mistake I didn't mean to make." And that's when I lost it. I screamed. I screamed at him. I told him it wasn't about the mistake, it was about the cover-up. That if he'd come to me the minute he had that suspicion, we could have dealt with it together. But now? Now it just felt like everything between us had a layer of rot under it. Even the good parts. He didn't even fight back. He just sat there and took it. I left again. I've been crashing at Rachel's for the past 3 nights, and every time I look at my phone, there's a new message from him. Some are apologies. Some are long explanations. Some just say, "I love you. Please come home." But I don't know what home is anymore. Here's the kicker, Vanessa told me something else before I left the cafe. She said she didn't want anything from me. She wasn't trying to insert herself into my life or wreck my relationship. But she wanted me to know that if I needed family, real family, she was here. And I believe her. She's the only one in this whole mess who hasn't lied to me. Now I'm sitting here with this impossible decision. Do I try to rebuild with Eric, knowing what he hid? That he suspected he'd dated my half-sister and chose to say nothing? That he made a moral decision for both of us without telling either of us? Or do I walk away from 6 years of love, companionship, shared history, and the life we built? Because I don't know if I can ever really trust him again? What would you do? It took me another 4 days to make a decision. During that time, I did all the cliché breakup things, walked around the block endlessly, listened to sad girl playlists, ate Thai takeout straight out of the container. Rachel was a saint. She never pushed. Just handed me wine and tissues when I needed them and stayed quiet when I didn't want to talk. Eric kept texting. The messages became more desperate. Then quieter. Then, finally, he said he wouldn't contact me again unless I reached out first. I didn't reply. Instead, I reached out to my adoptive mom again and asked for the truth, all of it. I told her about the DNA test, about Vanessa, and about what had happened. At first, she was shocked into silence. But then she sighed and said, "We always wondered if someday, you'd want to look." I told her it wasn't about looking. It was about being blindsided. Again and again. She invited me over for tea the next day, and for the first time in my life, my mom told me about my birth mother. Apparently, my bio mom, let's call her Dana, was a teenager when she had me. 16. She was in and out of the foster system herself. She tried her best for the first few years, but things spiraled. Drugs. Bad partners. Abandonment. The state took me when I was 4 after a neighbor called CPS. When she had Vanessa a year later, she was already deep in addiction. My mom said they heard through the grapevine that Vanessa's adoptive parents didn't want contact. And my parents were scared that if I knew about her, I'd go looking and end up getting hurt. "We thought we were protecting you," she said. I believed her. I don't think she was lying. But that decision, to hide Vanessa from me, set everything else in motion. If I'd known earlier, maybe this whole thing could have been avoided. Or maybe not. Who knows? That night, I made my choice. I asked Eric to meet me in public, a neutral place, a coffee shop near my old apartment. He looked like hell. Puffy eyes. Unshaven. He didn't try to hug me. Just sat down and waited. I laid it out as calmly as I could. "I don't think you're evil," I said. "I don't even think you're a bad person. But what you did, choosing to hide what you suspected, even after you got back together with me, that's not something I can forget. Or unfeel." He looked down. Said nothing. "I don't think I can build a life with someone who makes those kinds of decisions without me. Who thinks they know what's best without giving me a say." He finally looked up. His eyes were red, but dry. "So that's it?" "I think it has to be." We sat in silence for a while. Then he said something that surprised me. "You should know. I almost told you. So many times. But every time I looked at you, I thought, if I'm wrong, I'll destroy everything for nothing. And if I'm right, I already did." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. We hugged goodbye. It was long. Silent. Final. The worst part? I still love him. But love isn't always enough. Especially when trust is broken in a way you didn't know was even possible. So now I'm single. Untethered. A little numb. Vanessa and I have kept in touch. We met for a walk last weekend and talked more about our childhoods. There are eerie similarities, things we both do, say, even dream about. She said it felt like looking into a parallel universe where she was me and I was her. We both cried a little. It wasn't dramatic, just quiet tears. Like mourning something we never got to have. But there's something else. When I got home from that walk, I had a letter waiting in my mailbox. Not an email. Not a text. An actual letter. No return address. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. No signature. I'm sorry I gave you away. I was 17 and sick and scared. But I never stopped thinking about you. I kept every picture they sent me. Every update. I hope you're happy. I hope you forgive me. I stared at it for an hour. I called my mom and asked if she ever sent Dana updates. She was quiet, then said yes. For the first 2 years, the agency encouraged it. Then Dana stopped responding. They assumed she'd relapsed and didn't want contact. So they let it go. But now I'm wondering, did she ever actually let go? Did she follow me somehow? Social media? Internet searches? I have no idea how she found my address. It wasn't listed anywhere. It was mine, not even Eric's. I only moved there recently. And now I'm left with 100 new questions, on top of the 1,000 old ones. Is this another door opening? Or another trapdoor waiting to collapse? I don't know. But I feel like something bigger is coming. I didn't respond to the letter. At least not right away. I told myself I needed time. That I'd process it, sit with it, and decide whether I even wanted to open that door. But in reality, I was paralyzed. I read it over and over until the paper started to tear at the creases. I compared the handwriting to old report cards and cards from my adoptive mom, to see if maybe, somehow, it was someone else. But it wasn't hers. It wasn't anyone I recognized. And the scariest part? A piece of me wanted it to be real. Even though she gave me away. Even though she vanished. Even though every part of my life since age 4 had nothing to do with her, I still felt that instinctive, magnetic pull. So I did what I always do when I'm scared. I called Vanessa. She was quiet when I told her about the letter. Then she said, I got one too. Silence. What? Last week. It said something really similar. Apologized. Said she kept pictures. Said she hopes I'm safe. Did you tell anyone? No. You're the first. We met again, this time at her place. Sat cross-legged on her bed like teenagers, comparing letters. Same handwriting. Same paper. Slightly different wording, but the same core message. We decided, right then, we had to know where they came from. I'm not proud of what we did next. Vanessa had a friend, Claire, who worked for a courier service. We gave her both envelopes and asked if she could trace the origin. She said she'd try. A few days later, she called me at work and told me to sit down. The letters came from a P.O. box, she said. In a town called Redbridge. About 2 hours away. The name on the box is Dana Merrill. I nearly dropped the phone. I texted Vanessa, we found her. We didn't tell anyone what we were doing. We just got in her car and drove. Redbridge was one of those little in-between towns with no real downtown, just strip malls and fast food and a gas station that still had a cigarette machine. The P.O. box was in a UPS store wedged between a vape shop and a nail salon. We waited across the street in the car for over 2 hours. Nothing. Then, just before sunset, a woman walked up. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Thin. Tired looking. Faded jeans and a hoodie. She walked straight to the store, unlocked the box, pulled out a few envelopes, and left. Vanessa started the car. I told her to wait. I had no idea what I was going to say. My heart was pounding. But something in me said, go now, or you'll never do it. So I got out and crossed the street. I called out, Dana? She stopped. Turned. And looked straight at me. It was like looking into a funhouse mirror. Older. Weathered. But the same eyes. My eyes. Vanessa's eyes. She dropped her keys. I stepped closer. I choked. I know who you are, she said. Her voice cracked. I never thought you'd come. Vanessa caught up behind me, breathless. Dana looked at her and gasped, like she was seeing a ghost. She started to cry. Not loud, but deep, chest-hollow sobs. We didn't hug. It wasn't some movie reunion. It was too raw. Too weird. We went to a diner a few blocks away. Dana ordered coffee and didn't touch it. She told us everything. She'd gotten clean 12 years ago. Started over. Worked at a library. Lived in a studio apartment. Quiet life. No family. No kids. Just the past. She said she'd searched for us for years but never found anything. Then about 6 months ago, she got a notification from a site she'd signed up for ages ago, one of those people search sites. It said a new match had been posted for her name. A relative. That's how she found me. I asked her how she got my address. She hesitated, then said, "You posted a picture of your birthday party on Instagram. The balloons in the background had your apartment number." She smiled a little. "You should be more careful." I didn't know whether to be freaked out or touched. Vanessa asked why she never tried to reach out before. Dana looked down. "Because I was a coward. And because I didn't think I deserved you." We talked for 2 hours. More, maybe. I lost track. At the end, she handed each of us an envelope. Inside were pictures, dozens of them. Me as a baby. Vanessa, too. Polaroids. Stamped photo prints from drugstore kiosks. She'd kept them. All this time. I didn't cry then. Not until I got home. That night, I looked through every photo 10 times. I didn't know what I was looking for. Proof? Forgiveness? Myself? But here's where things got even stranger. The next morning, Vanessa called me, whispering like she didn't want someone to hear. "You need to come over," she said. "Now." When I got there, she handed me one of the pictures Dana had given her. It was a blurry group shot. Adults and kids. Looked like a birthday party. And in the corner, just barely in frame, was a man. Vanessa zoomed in. "Look at his face." My stomach dropped. It was Eric. You could only see half of him, but it was unmistakable. The picture had a date stamp, July 1999. I was 6. Vanessa would have been 5. Eric would have been 7. We sat in stunned silence. Vanessa said, "We need to talk to her again." I nodded. But part of me was screaming. Because if that was really Eric, then this goes way deeper than we ever thought. We didn't even wait a full day. We called Dana that night and asked if she could meet us again. She sounded nervous, like she could hear something in our voices, but she agreed. We drove back to Redbridge the next morning and met her at the same diner, the same booth. Vanessa slid the photo across the table without saying a word. Dana picked it up, squinted, then went pale. "You recognize him?" I said. Not a question. She nodded slowly. Her hands trembled. "I didn't realize. I didn't remember until just now," she said. "That was one of the foster homes." My throat closed up. "What?" She exhaled, sat back, and closed her eyes like she was bracing for a wave. "Before you girls were taken permanently, before the state split you up, you were both in a group foster home for a few months. It was temporary. Emergency placement. It was. Not a good place." Her voice cracked again. "There were 5 or 6 kids. One of the older ones was a boy. Quiet. Always watching. I think that's him." I couldn't breathe. "You're saying Eric was there? With us?" "I can't be sure," she whispered. "But it looks like him. And I remember his name was Eric." I sat there, completely numb, as something clicked into place. A memory I hadn't known was a memory until that moment. A hallway. Carpet with bright cartoon characters. A boy offering me a toy. Holding my hand when I cried at night. I thought it was a dream. Vanessa looked just as shaken. She said, "You're saying we knew each other? Back then?" Dana nodded. "For a few months. You were all just kids." I sat there for a long time. Then I said, out loud, what we were both thinking. "Did Eric know? Did he remember me? Us? From before?" It would explain everything. The familiarity when we first met. The way he latched onto me. The intensity of it all. Maybe he remembered before I ever did. Maybe he recognized me and kept it to himself, just like he did with Vanessa. A pattern. I left the diner and threw up in the parking lot. Later that night, I texted him. We need to talk. I need you to be completely honest. Did you know me as a kid? From before?" He replied almost instantly. "Eric, yes." Just that. One word. I stared at it for a long time. Then the rest of the messages came through, in bursts. "Eric, I remembered you the second I saw you at that party. I didn't know how. But it hit me like a freight train. Eric, I didn't say anything because I didn't think you remembered. And then we were in it. and I didn't want to lose you. Eric, I didn't know about Vanessa until later. I swear. Eric, I know it sounds bad. But it wasn't like that. It was never like that. I didn't reply. Because suddenly, I didn't know what like that even meant anymore. This man, this person I loved, trusted, built a future with, had known me when we were kids. In trauma. In survival. And said nothing. Then later, dated my half-sister. Hid that, too. It wasn't just the lies. It was the pattern of silence. Of choosing what not to tell me. I don't think he ever meant to hurt me. But he hurt me anyway. Over and over. I showed the text to Vanessa. She said, he's not evil. But he's dangerous in the way cowards are dangerous. And that hit harder than anything else. We decided, together, to stop reaching out to him. No more texts. No more explanations. Just nothing. I don't need closure from someone who kept rewriting our story without asking. That was a month ago. Since then, Vanessa and I have seen each other almost every day. We go for walks. Watch trashy TV. Make up for time we didn't know we missed. We've both started therapy, separately and together. We met with Dana one more time. Not for answers. Just to sit, and be, and try to figure out what a future might look like with her in it. It's slow. Messy. Complicated. But honest. For once, honest. And me? I moved out of the apartment. Got a new place, just me and a cat I adopted on a whim. Her name's Miso. She's clingy and weird and perfect. Some nights, I still dream about Eric. But not as a partner. More like a shadow. A reflection of everything I ignored, excused, or missed. I'm starting to see that love doesn't mean much if it's built on silence. I don't know what I'll do about Dana long term. I don't even know if she'll stay clean, or present, or consistent. But I do know I have a sister now. And that means more to me than anything Eric could have given me. And the weirdest, most terrifying, most beautiful part of all this? I think this story saved my life. Even though it almost ruined it first.